characterize the trash there. And then we did a post ordinance implementation to see if it was making a difference and compared the two numbers. In addition to that, we've done compliance inspections to make sure that the stores are actually following through on their part of it. And then finally, we've been using the data that we've collected from these 32 hotspots that we know are high trash generating areas, and looking at the difference in the bags that we're seeing from year to year, plastic single-use bags. So I think we would have to develop, I think there is a way to develop an approach that shows that these source control options are making a difference.
That's good. That's a good discussion. Quickly, you asked that there be an alternate track. Is track 2 what you mean by that, or is it even different than what we're proposing in track 2?
The way that track 2 is currently worded, it doesn't exactly align with the approach that we've taken in the Bay Area for addressing trash. And so what our aim is not to have to start from point 1 over again. We've done a lot of the work, so is there a way for us to just see that incorporated into the options that are available to us?
How to protect the Region 2 approach, perhaps not as wholly as the Region 4 approach, which is even more advanced, but not make you start all over again.
Yes, we don't want to start all over.
We've heard that already from a number of players, so we'll talk about that.
Great.
But have you used trash insert devices? Have you put in the technology in some of your high trash areas?
We're a very large city, but we have already installed hydrodynamic separators in several areas. And then we've also tried and are trying some partial capture devices as well. So our approach is varied. It's not all dependent upon one thing. It's a mixed bag, which I think track 2 was intending to offer as an option.
No pun intended.
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Elaine Marshall, Environmental Program Manager, City of Sunnyvale.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Elaine Marshall. I'm the Environmental Programs Manager for the City of Sunnyvale. And just so you know, the City of Sunnyvale is located in the heart of Silicon Valley. We are, the home to several high-tech headquarters such as Yahoo, NetApp, and Juniper Networks, among a few. And we have a community whose population is close to 150,000. I'm here to express our support for the 2-track implementation approach that is outlined in the trash amendments. We applaud the State Board and its staff for addressing this important issue of marine debris. Specifically, Track 2 allows a city such as ourselves to put trash controls in place that are appropriate and responsive to our working knowledge of the city, our infrastructure, and our known sources of trash. It allows a city like Sunnyvale to prioritize our limited resources to best meet our community needs and our environmental needs. We have invested in a multi-control strategy to reduce trash in Sunnyvale. We've been actually working to reduce trash for over a decade. We have installed 79 full trash capture devices since 2009, and we start construction on 2 large hydrodynamic separators next month that will capture trash from over 1,000 acres of land area. So we are looking at a multi-strategy approach. We also have other institutional controls in place and plans such as street sweeping, litter cleanups, and successful product actions such as single-use bag bans and bans on expanded polystyrene foam foodware. So we think this approach allows us to prevent litter from the MS floor, as well as cutting off the source of litter getting into our waterways from other pathways, be it direct deposit or wind-blown trash. And it also results in a cleaner community, which is a priority for us. As a permittee covered under the San Francisco Municipal Regional Permit, we have invested significant resources, including staff time and capital funding in development and implementation of our short-term and our long-term trash reduction plans. And we respectfully ask that you consider a mechanism in the trash amendments that allows us to continue down the path we've already established and allow us to continue to implement the long-term plan that has been developed and submitted to the regional board. the timelines and the requirements that are delineated in the trash amendments could potentially create additional submittals and additional rework of our already established plan that could divert our limited resources from on-the-ground implementation. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could I do a quick question?
Yeah, I have one too, but you go first.
Thank you, Chair Marcus. Thanks. And actually, at the workshop, we didn't hear as much from the Bay Area. It was discussed, but more from afar. So it's good. I'm glad that you all showed up here to talk and discuss the programs. You know, a lot of the critique that's been lodged toward the approach at Region 2, especially in the last workshop that I heard from different folks, was the critique was focused on demonstrating, you know, quantitatively through measurement, a reduction in waterways. You know, and clearly, you know, we heard then today, we heard Los Angeles examples of volume of trash kept from entering waterways as a primary indicator of success down there. Both Heal the Bay and NRDC talked about volume removed. But what are some like real snapshot in response to that critique? You know, what kind of monitoring investments have been done in Sunnyvale and your neighboring communities to try to show that in the waterways, as you mentioned, your goal of a cleaner community, what kind of metrics are you using to show how that's manifesting in waterways?
Great. That's a great question, and we are working to continue to better understand how trash is moving through our community and into the waterways. Definitely, we have our full trash capture devices in place, so we will be monitoring what's being collected out of those devices. Our maintenance staff are maintaining those devices on a regular basis, so they're keeping note of the amount of trash that's being removed. We are also working with BASMA on establishing the protocol for monitoring trash that's in our community and in a pilot project to monitor trash in our waterways. Our regular volunteers at our creek cleanups have noted the absence of certain products that used to be prevalent at our cleanups and are less so now. We also just completed a round of on-land visual assessments where we're looking at testing a protocol to quantify how much trash is on the streets and available to be washed into the storm system, and what control measures how control measures can affect that and improve that. So we are working on the issue. It's definitely something that we don't have a finite answer to right now, but we are working to better understand how trash is moving and how our actions are reducing the amount of trash in the waterways and in our community.
Good. That was going to be the substance of my question as well, although I wanted to ask John, or Tom is here, what the Region 2 permit has in terms of monitoring.
So I'll leave that to Tom when he comes up and does his speak, but I did want
I
to...
don't have a card for Tom, so.
Oh, well,
That's why I
then,
was looking to see if Tom was coming up later, but he's just sitting there looking wise in the front row. But nobody's sitting anywhere near him, and I'm not sure what that means.
it means he works at a regional board. It's okay.
He works at our regional board, so everybody's keeping their distance.
I do want to say that we are very cognizant of the issue of not undermining the effort at Region 2 and their program.
But we might want more monitoring,
But
based on what I'm hearing.
what I was suggesting is that I don't believe that we need another track to recognize that. And I'm more than happy to continue working with Tom to see if there's anything that we missed. But we did try to make sure that the structure of the Track 2 would allow for the continuation of the plans that they're already producing, and that allows for alternate land uses based on high generation that they identified. We try to take all that into account in the development of the amendment. So as people are looking at what we've done, and we'll look at their comments to make sure that we feel that it fits, but that's what we were trying to do.
Thanks very much. That's interesting. And I apologize, you all may all have been here 2 weeks ago, but I missed that day, so it's all fresh for me. And I appreciate any repetition, and I apologize to anybody else who doesn't enjoy it. Matthew Fabry from BASMA.
Morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Matthew Fabry. I'm the current chair of the Bay Area Stormwater Management Agencies Association, or BASMA, and I'm speaking today on behalf of BASMA's 76 Phase 1 permittees under the San Francisco Bay Regional Permit. You've already heard from 2 of those already. We are nearing the end of our first 5-year term of the MRP, under which permittees were required, among other things, to achieve a 40% reduction of trash discharge from their MS4s. To date, permittees have treated over 20,000 acres with full capture trash devices. We've adopted nearly 100 local ordinances banning distribution of litter-prone items such as single-use plastic bags and polystyrene foodware. We've installed hundreds of partial capture devices, implemented an innovative regional social media campaign to change the behavior of litterers, and annually cleaned up over 300 creek and shoreline trash hotspots. Additionally, Bay Area permittees conducted a regional trash generation study and assessed thousands of streets to create community-specific trash generation maps. These maps were included in each agency's long-term trash load reduction plan submitted to the regional board in February of this year. The plans document actions each municipality will implement to achieve the MRP's trash reduction goals under a time frame shorter than would be allowed under the proposed amendment. There is no simple one-size-fits-all solution to dealing with the trash problem, but we are focused on a single outcome, which is solving the problem. In short, Bay Area permittees have spent millions of dollars to date on trash reduction planning and control implementation, and based on the state board's estimates, we'll need to spend millions more to reach the end goal. So I'm going to briefly address 3 primary concerns we have with the proposed amendment. First, as proposed, the narrative water quality objective and the discharge prohibition are inconsistent. The narrative objective correctly recognizes that trash in discharges in amounts that adversely affect beneficial uses or cause nuisance should be regulated. The prohibition, however, makes no reference to the amounts that affect beneficial uses. Language should be added to qualify that the trash discharges being prohibited are in an amounts that cause impairment of beneficial uses or conditions of nuisance in receiving waters. Secondly, as previously indicated, Bay Area permittees have made major strides in addressing trash, including comprehensive planning and mapping efforts and implementation of source and treatment controls. We urge the proposed amendment be revised to incorporate a 3rd track that accepts as equivalent Bay Area efforts under the MRP, and to not require Bay Area permittees to resubmit trash plans, revise mapping efforts, or identification of trash generating areas, or generally do anything to require permittees to deviate from the path we've been forging in coordination with Region 2 staff for the past 5 years. We believe the Bay Area is on the strongest path in the state to truly addressing the trash issue.
Oh, you're taking on LA? Those fighting words there? Sorry.
I believe as indicated by previous commenters, we're focused on cleaning up the communities and not just collecting
Yeah,
trash
that
in
was
the
a,
storm
that
drain
was
cell.
a fair point.
Yeah. Lastly, Bay Area communities have to date installed and maintained over 5,000 full capture devices costing over $10 million. Many devices were funded through a single federal recovery and reinvestment grant to the San Francisco Estuary Partnership. All devices installed under this grant were approved by Region 2 staff as providing full trash capture in compliance with the MRP. Many, but not all of these devices have also been certified by the LA Board. The proposed amendment must be modified to allow that all devices installed by Bay Area permittees and approved as full capture by Region 2 staff and functioning and being maintained properly remain in place and continue to be recognized as meeting the full capture standard. We request the State Board grandfather those devices previously approved by Region 2 staff into the certification process, or more broadly certify all devices approved by Region 2 staff. Additional detail, including proposed revisions to the amendment language, are included in our comment letter. We appreciate your time and thank you for considering these requests.
Thank you very much, and thanks for all the effort. Sam Ziegler, U.S. EPA. EPA.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Sam Ziegler with EPA, and I just want to make some brief comments. We're submitting written comments today. I just wanted to note very briefly a few highlights from our comments, and primarily, you know, it's of great support. We're in great support of what you're doing, your efforts to date to address trash, as well as these new policies. And our comments provide some specific suggestions for your consideration, particularly concerning monitoring, as you've been discussing, and also a little bit about the definition of priority areas, and those are just things for consideration. Just a couple of things to note. One is particularly in terms of TMDLs. As we've heard, the development of the trash TMDLs played a tremendous role and have really led to great success and reductions in trash in our waterways. But one of the best things about this policy that we recognize is that if adopted, you won't have the need to continue to develop individual TMDLs on each water body. You can still list water bodies as impaired for trash, but they won't be in need of individual TMDLs. So, this is great. It's not about doing more TMDLs. It is about effective control actions, and this is a step in that direction, and we look forward to trying to take advantage of other opportunities to do similar types of policies. I wanted to note, as properly identified by your staff and in the document itself, that these do include new water quality objectives that are going to be submitted to EPA for approval. So we look forward to continuing to work with your staff on that and through the approval process. And then finally, again, I just wanted to say that we really support and applaud your actions. We've provided support in different ways, some in financial ways, for the board's actions as well as for the actions that are most important, which are the implementation and control measures. And I guess on that note, I just wanted to really applaud the efforts of the municipalities and others in the regulated community who are stepping up in an amazing way. And we'll look for opportunities. We'll continue to look for opportunities to support you and assist you, as well as supporting those who have to live with these regulations, and try to find ways to align what resources we may have and hopefully still have to put in these controls. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just have a question. I should know the answer to this, Sam. Is there another state that's taken on trash, or are there other regions around the country who've taken an active trash role? Florida or
You
somewhere?
are far and away the leader. And there is at least one other trash TMDL in the DC area, but it's something on that order. And I would say that I know the regional administrator in Region 2 for EPA is very interested in what's going on and is watching these efforts and trying to put in place some similar programs, but they're really following, as well as EPA nationally has now developed a trash-free waters program.
So, Sam, I volunteer anytime to go back east and talk to any of those people.
That's right.
My daughter will be there soon, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, good job.
You have expertise here that you can offer now. Thank you very much. Appreciate the help. And next, Dave Tamayo from the Sacramento Stormwater Quality Partnership. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name's Dave Tamayo. I'm an environmental specialist with Sacramento County, and I'm here representing the Sacramento Stormwater Quality Partnership, which is the Phase 1 MS4s in Sacramento County. We've submitted written comments with more detail on the theme that I'm going to present to you, but I would like to read just one small part of it. And this is an excerpt from the Federal Source Pollution Prevention Act. Source reduction is fundamentally different and more desirable than waste management and pollution control. The Congress hereby declares it to be the national policy of the United States that pollution should be prevented or reduced at the source whenever possible. Excuse me, whenever feasible. The basic thrust of my comments is that first of all, I want to applaud the state board's recent interest in promoting true source control. Just a few weeks ago, your staff indicated that that was going to be a key feature of the stormwater policy. What I'd like to say is that the way the trash amendment is structured, it actually undermines true source control as the best, which we believe is the best way to address the worst trash problems that we have. Certainly, that's a policy direction that we support. True source control is a policy direction that we support the State Water Board going. But it's not just coming from stormwater agencies, it's also coming from other state agencies, it's coming from US EPA. In fact, support of source control is actually pretty prevalent in a lot of the documents that are referenced by the environmental groups that have testified before you today. The biggest problem we have is that it's pretty clear that the way this is structured, it pushes people towards full capture. And full capture is not the most efficient way to do this. You don't get the other environmental benefits that you would get from true source control, and you don't get the monetary benefits. What we're really looking for is, and we'd really like to get full support from the State Board for pursuing a true source control path to address the problem. It's pretty well stated in the Ocean Protection Council's priorities for addressing marine debris, which I think also extend to freshwater environments. One is, and they're very clear about what the priorities are. One is focus on plastic. 3 priority actions: support EPR, establish prohibitions of the most problematic products, and establish fees for the most common litter-inducing products. Now, if we put all of our focus on treatment controls, then we lose the benefits of source control. And what I would suggest is that the amendment be revised to show clear support by the State Board for true source control of trash, to focus on plastic, to structure the amendment to remove disincentives for local agencies to support source control, and to adjust the timetable to allow for state adoption of true source control. So that most likely take some legislative fixes. I think that you have partners in other state agencies like Cal Recycle that is under mandates from AB 31 to greatly reduce trash and pointedly looks towards true source control to do that. You have mandates for the Air Board and also for DTSC that would support this. So what's missing is a statement or a real commitment by your board supporting that and removing blocks to achieving that. And I'd finally like to say, you know, I think that the stormwater field, the stormwater agencies overall have been very supportive and in fact taken a leadership role in true source control for some other types of pollutants like pesticides and copper from brake pads. And I think that, I think based on our record of supporting that, I think that one could expect that the stormwater community would be fully behind adopting these true source control measures.
Right, so you're suggesting accelerating what we're planning to focus on in our policy and try and put it into this permit?
Yes.
That's essentially, because that's the dialogue we want to be having in a thoughtful way with folks, which is why it's one of the prongs of our next set of strategies. So the question would be, what I'm hearing you say is you want us to jump to putting all of that into this permit.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually sort of a stated direction. I know you haven't fully adopted that strategy yet,
No,
but
just because there are a lot of
start
players
heading
who
in
would
that
want to engage
direction.
in that.
I think because of the very high cost of putting in true source control in stormwater agencies throughout the state, it's worth looking at how far we can go with the true source control. And, you know, I realize that it's set up where it looks like source control and institutional controls are an option, but it's pretty clear that they're sort of designed to force us the other way, and in fact there's...
That's funny, because other people are reading it exactly the opposite, so now I have to look at all your comments and reread the language and see what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, people that's not unusual that people read different things.
I think there was a statement by staff today and in previous workshops that it's really set up to try and get people to put those in wherever they can. So,
So there's two things.
read it
One
or
is
heard it
that,
that
I think that he's correct that the amendment is designed to favor full capture over track two. Wherever possible, put full capture in because we know it's effective, we know it.
Right.
I don't believe, and I'm looking forward to looking at the comments to see what he thinks is blocks towards source control. The one thing that I picked up, and I'd like you to clarify if I'm wrong, I think maybe the block is that we're forcing people to pay attention to the trash that's flowing out today instead of looking at source control in the future.
I'd say, and uncertainty of compliance, and there's been a lot of discussion today about, what is compliance. There's been discussion about zero discharge. What does that mean? That's a very scary thing for us. Then I'd also point out that, sure, treatment can be demonstrated to work, but, we have pesticides coming down from the rice fields, and nobody
as
is
many as there
suggesting
used
that
to.
the answer to that is to install much greater treatment. You can treat just about any pollutant and get it out of the water. It's technically feasible to get just about anything out of the water. It's just a question of how much does it cost, and not just money-wise, but in your efforts. What else could you do with the funds? So.
No, thanks. These were thoughtful comments, thought-provoking. I appreciate the perspective you're bringing on this. There's kind of two things I'd like to quickly cover with. Now, you mentioned, true source control now, and I've used those examples too, as far as the copper ban and brake pads. But those are parallel processes that the regional boards and state board have participated in. We recognize them in our policy statements. But this comes to, I have a question for our legal counsel on this, in terms of what our legal authorities are and where they, where we start running into, maybe areas where we don't have authority. And you mentioned things like establishing a prohibition of products, or us, taking policies that would require extended producer responsibility and establishing fees for litter creating products. I think you touched on it. There's other state agencies that we could work with potentially with stakeholders and collaborative forums to get there. But could I get a real brief discussion about, where our legal authority is with respect to some of those true source control initiatives?
Sure. So I think as you're alluding to, we do have some limitations on the things that we can actually require people to do in the first instance. And those limitations generally revolve around whether or not there is a discharge of waste that could affect the quality of waters of the state. And so one of the ways that we've tried to frame these trash amendments is to essentially focus on that first, which is do things that will relate more directly to preventing discharges of waste, but then providing sort of alternative methods for people to do if they would prefer not to. And that's where we get into things like what we call the regulatory source controls, perhaps some other of the categories of institutional controls that we're allowing under Track 2. So we're allowing them as essentially an alternative to a more direct mechanism for reducing or preventing the discharges of waste. But we're doing it that way quite advisedly because that's where our real authority is over the discharges of waste, and this is an alternative means for them to comply with our requirements.
And I think our assumption has been that a number of, perhaps at the state level, source control or extended producer fees, et cetera, are generally done in the legislature as opposed to us doing it as part of a permit.
That's another reason that we're not doing, and we'll have to look at all the comments and kind of parse them in terms of the suggestions, but you're right. In terms of our ability to require people to pay fees, those very specifically relate to fees for people who are discharging waste.
Am I correct that if Sacramento wants to go to the legislature to create fees for trash, we're happy for them to do it?
Well, sure, and they probably have some authorities already that
Right.
we don't have.
Exactly.
And they may or may not need legislation.
May I comment?
Yeah, briefly, and then I'm sorry.
I
In the
wasn't-
beginning, it becomes very helpful for us to
Sure.
spot issues and have a conversation. I'm assuring the people back there, we're going to listen just as much to you all, and we'll speed up.
I wasn't contending that all the authority that is required to do that would be something that would be within the realm of the State Water Board. But we are contending that it is within the state's purview to do a lot of this, and that's been recognized by the Ocean Protection Council, which, as you know, is a cabinet-level group, including the administrator or the secretary of the Cal EPA, that's identified those as the top priorities. And then also part of the charter of the Ocean Protection Council is to identify ways to use public funds most judiciously to address the issues that are affecting the ocean and to reduce the amount of conflict with, various state rules and laws.
Thank
So
you.
we're asking for your support in moving forward in this way. So, thank you.
Thanks. Good. Next, Stephen Joseph from the Save the Plastic Bag Coalition. That's good. Mr. Joseph, thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Members of the board, I'm here in two capacities. On the one hand, I'm counsel for the Save the Plastic Bag Coalition, which represents plastic bag manufacturers and, in fact, the largest paper bag manufacturer in the country. But I have written comments and submitted those, and it includes a secret objection. I'd really like to address you in my other capacity as a long-time anti-litter activist. And that's the reason I didn't come in my lawyer's outfit. I came dressed in my anti-litter activist outfit. And I'd like to tell you a story about that, because I'd like to talk about source control and whether or not it makes sense, or whether or not you should delay MS4 compliance based on source control. Back in 2001, I sued the city of San Francisco because of the refusal of the city to clean up graffiti. I'd formed San Francisco Graffiti Busters, and I was cleaning up graffiti all over the city, but the city was doing nothing. I sued them, and the city ended up cleaning up 20,000 parking signs, getting the graffiti off, and Mayor Brown's office approached me and said, what can we do about the litter in the city? And I worked with Mayor Brown's office and also a colleague called Gideon Kramer, who's a well-known anti-litter activist in San Francisco, and we came up with an idea of a Green Patrol. And this is the Green Patrol T-shirt that we designed, and we worked very closely with Mohammed Nuru at DPW, and it got off the ground, it got launched. Mayor Brown launched it in 2001 in North Beach. We worked also with Aaron Peskin. And the Green Patrol had a van. It had great sweeping and cleaning equipment to clean up the graffiti and sweep the streets. Paint to repaint the area. One of the problems was the Italian flags on the lampposts in North Beach were very degraded and crooked and looked awful, and we wanted those to be perfected. And so the idea was that we would have 2 Green Patrol crew members dressed like this, who would go around and make that area their own. Nobody else, no other DPW crews would come into the area, but those 2 guys would clean up the area, and they would keep it pristine. Well, it became immediately pristine, the whole of North Beach. They knew by a month or 2 or 3 into the process, they knew all of the shopkeepers. They knew the residents. The residents knew to call them. They had cell phones. They knew to call them. And if there was any trash problem, if anyone threw out a mattress or, there was trash piling up, it was instantly cleaned up. So before the Green Patrol started operating, there were newspapers everywhere, paper bags, some plastic bags. I can't say it's anything that really came to my attention, plastic bags, but there must have been some. Cigarette butts especially, terrible. Cups,
they're big.
all kinds of stuff. And if you would have said after the Green Patrol had done that fantastic job, well, if you just ban one product, you can delay the entire Green Patrol for a year. And if you ban 2 products, you can delay it for 2 years. And if you ban 3 products, you can delay it for 3 years. You would have had 3 years of a filthy, dirty North Beach. And we would have laughed it out of court. everybody will have laughed it out of court. What are you talking about, source control? How could you possibly put off all of the other litter cleanup steps that you're taking, or any of them, because of that? Now, I stayed in San Francisco up until last year. I moved to Los Angeles, but a couple of years ago, my house got flooded in San Francisco because a storm drain had not been cleaned, despite the fact that we asked the city over and over again to clean it. I had been cleaning the storm drains myself because they wouldn't do it. I didn't see particularly plastic bags in the storm drains. They've been banned at the large stores already. I saw leaves, I saw paper, I saw clogging, just a general mass of clogging in the storm drains. If you would have said to me, well, if we ban one product, we don't need to do all of the litter cleanup and storm drain cleanup or putting in the capture devices, I would have said that's absurd, because it wouldn't have made any difference to the litter problem. It got so bad that I sent a video to the city of, what the area looked like after Trader Joe's and Safeway had plastic bags removed from their stores, what the areas looked like around their stores. And there's a video, it's one of the links that's in our comments. I don't know if you've looked at it. The area is terrible. It's full of trash. Taking away plastic bags didn't mean that the street sweepers didn't have to come and clean up bags and bags and bags of trash. I was cleaning my own street because it was never cleaned by the city. You couldn't say to me, well, you don't have to worry about the street anymore. I mean, we had whole chickens on the street and all kinds of stuff that the left behind after trash trucks would come, because that's the real source of trash in San Francisco, more than anything else, is trash trucks. When they load up the trash, there's trash everywhere. It was after the trash trucks had come on my street in San Francisco that I had to go down the street with a trash bag and fill it up with all the stuff they'd left on the street. They're the biggest cause. If you would have said to me, well, what if we just ban one of these products of the many hundreds that I was seeing on the street? I would have said that's ridiculous. That's not addressing the litter problem. Source control may address the problem that Leslie Tabenham has with plastic bags, which may be an entirely different ideological or symbolic problem in some ways, but it has nothing to do with real serious litter control.
Okay.
So,
If you can wrap up.
I'm just gonna
because
wrap
you've
up.
made that point very
right.
effectively.
I'm going to say
a
one
number
more,
of times.
two more things. First of all,
But quickly, just because.
very quickly.
You have a room full of people behind.
Very quickly. In terms of CEQA, the staff have said in the report, while granting time extensions would delay full implementation of the proposed trash amendments, it would not have an adverse impact on the environment. Well, no analysis has been done. That's just an assertion. If that is the position that the staff wants to take, they need to back it up with a proper CEQA environmental analysis. It's absurd on its face for the reasons that I've already said. Secondly, it's apparent that the board is struggling with performance standards and also the definition of what is source control. Which products are we talking about? There are products and there are products. What will a city be allowed to ban in order to get an extension? We have not heard that. We don't see anything in the staff report. So if there are going to be any concrete proposals made, there would have to be an additional comment period so that the public could weigh in, because I think that what you have right now is not defined at all, and we would actually formally object. I guess the coalition would be objecting. The coalition is objecting at this point because we don't know what the proposal really is. It's just too vague. And that's all I have to say on the subject.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Interesting. Sarah Spinetti, Surfrider Foundation, Global Headquarters.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Sarah Spinuzzi. I'm with the Surfrider Foundation. I'm from Global Headquarters.
I didn't see it right.
Surfrider Foundation is a grassroots nonprofit dedicated to protecting the world's oceans, waves, and beaches. Over 1,040 of our activists submitted our action letter, which was emailed to you yesterday, in support of the trash amendments, provided that some particular differences are changed to enhance the program. Trash affects all beneficial uses of water, a resource that we don't have very much of in California. And we keep coming up with new and creative ways to make trash every day. For example, this morning at the airport, I purchased this apple. You may see from here that it is shrink wrapped in saran wrap. Apparently, nobody knows that apples come in a natural package called the skin. It's Surfrider's mission to reduce trash at the source. Surfrider's mission is to treat the disease, not merely the symptom. And you can help doing that with this trash policy, which is very good at treating the symptoms, but could use some work in treating the disease itself. First, source control bans must be incentivized. How can you do this? One, you can make time extensions as was recommended, but Surfrider requests that only be for source bans. Second, under both tracks, you could implement numeric annual reduction requirements, and those numeric annual reduction requirements would naturally incentivize municipalities to adopt source bans because they would have to meet stringent requirements, and the most effective way to do that is through source control bans. Annual reduction rates are easier to enforce, and they're not as staff intensive as this staff actually stated in a 2007 report, because if you have a specific number you have to meet, it's easier and less staff intensive to enforce than if you have a narrative, which becomes very staff intensive. Third, Surfrider would support removing the discretionary language for municipalities identifying trash hotspots, such as high traffic area beaches, and we request that that be mandatory. And finally, Surfrider requests a 5-year compliance period as opposed to 10 years. The bottom line here is that water is a very, very scarce resource in California. If the water that we have is polluted with trash, it's just not feasible to sustain wrapping apples in plastic. Finally, we think that this is feasible because some of the largest cities, such as Los Angeles and San Francisco, are almost finished with full compliance. And also, in the past 10 years, we've produced more plastic than was produced in the previous century. Keeping this up, we don't have 10 years, so we would urge compliance time be shortened to 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you know, while you're up there, there was a strong advocacy for source control. Have you had the opportunity to talk with folks at DTSC on their green chemistry initiative on product registration?
Surfrider Foundation, to my knowledge, has not. Is there a further recommendation there?
Yeah, well, just they're you know, they're the agency that registers products for consumer use and other things, and so. You know, and that was part of my leading question about legal authority in that area.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you'd had a chance to connect with them. That's all.
No,
Yeah.
but the legal authority, basically what Surfrider is recommending is not that you would implement a source ban, but that you would implement stricter annual numeric reduction rates that must be met, which would naturally incentivize municipalities to implement source bans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we have Cheryl Hoon from the City of Sacramento.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Hune with the City of Sacramento. I'm our Stormwater Program Manager, and I want to thank you today for letting me provide comments on the draft trash amendment. The city and our Sacramento Stormwater Quality Partnership is committed to the protection of our local waterways. Our programs have supported water quality improvements in local creeks and rivers for more than 25 years. The city generally agrees with the concept of a consistent statewide trash policy, but we believe it should be based on a scientific methodology that is calibrated to the impacts of trash on a community and its local waterways. Currently, the proposal uses studies from highly populated areas such as the Bay Area and LA and superimposes these solutions statewide. This approach does not translate to the city or other communities of lesser population densities, differing geography, and differing demographics. The trash amendments could result in implementation of a very expensive and ineffective prescriptive methodology for many communities without measurable results. The city and our partners has over 20 years of water quality data. We use this data, have evaluated it, and we've used this to prioritize target pollutants or pollutants of concern that are the highest priority to our community and local waterways. And then we have developed programs to address these pollutants. These prescriptive trash amendments would supersede these existing efforts and programs. It would basically be setting trash as the highest priority for our community, which would require reallocating limited resources from other stormwater programs that we implement and water quality issues in our region. We appreciate that the amendments try to provide flexibility with the Track 2 option. However, the current approach as written does not seem to be a viable option. The amendments do not provide guidance on what would be considered an acceptable implementation plan or how equivalency should be demonstrated or evaluated. We request that clear guidance for the implementation plans and standards of equivalency be established prior to or with the adoption of the trash amendments. Current trash amendments do not address the source of trash, as many of the other speakers have talked about, and we would really like to encourage the state to partner with other state agencies and organizations to evaluate and promote the implementation of source controls, such as establishing or increasing redemption values, making recycling more convenient, implementing statewide product bans, and supporting legislation related to extended producer responsibility. These types of actions would result in the removal of trash from our environment. Also in the trash amendment, it stated that the state board would certify full capture systems. We think it's important that an initial approved list is created prior to the adoption of these amendments. This list should include treatment controls that are currently being used by stormwater programs, including LID BMPs and other engineered systems such as bioretention, infiltration BMPs, and detention basins. Amendments should also be revised to allow existing BMPs that are currently installed that meet these requirements or are on the state's approved list to fulfill the trash requirements. And I am in conclusion here. In conclusion, the city believes that the intent of the proposed trash amendment has merit, but fails to address the issues in a well-rounded and scientific manner. We recommend that the amendments be modified to require a clearly defined methodology to perform these trash assessments to determine the actual impact of trash in all MS4 jurisdictions. Also, the trash amendments need to recognize the value of current management programs and not divert resources away from ongoing successful efforts to control trash and other pollutants in our waterways. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, Tom Dalzell from Contra Costa Clean Water Program. Hi, Tom.
Good afternoon. My name's Tom Dalzell. I'm the manager of the Contra Costa Clean Water Program, which consists of 21 public agencies. 18 of these agencies are covered under the municipal regional permit issued by the San Francisco Water Board. 5 are issued a permit by the Central Valley Water Board. 2 of those 5 are covered under both permits. All 21 agencies are members of BASMA, the Bay Area Stormwater Management Agencies Association. Our concerns and comments are contained in BASMA's comment letter. However, I'd like to emphasize 3 specific points on behalf of Contra Costa permittees. First is our request that the State Water Board specifically acknowledge and accept the San Francisco Bay Area trash reduction approach, developed and refined collaboratively with San Francisco Bay Regional Water Quality Control Board staff over the last 5 years. Doing so would be consistent with the board's desire expressed in its Stormwater Strategic Initiative to improve stormwater program effectiveness and efficiency. Countless hours, resources, and effort have been devoted by 76 public agencies and water board staff in the Bay Area to develop our approach. The Bay Area approach is similar to, but sufficiently different than Track 2, outlined in the proposed trash policy. Not specifically acknowledging the Bay Area approach would unnecessarily require 76 public agencies to repeat work already completed. This would be bad public policy and a waste of taxpayer dollars. Second comment, as I indicated earlier, our program, we have 5 permittees that are covered under the Central Valley Water Board permit. These 5 permittees have the exact same identical requirements, trash requirements that are in the MRP. And so I'm specifically asking that with the state trash policy to acknowledge the San Francisco approach, and that includes those 5 permittees that have the exact same requirements but are covered under the Central Valley permit. My last comment deals with funding and the need for state board and stakeholder support for leadership here. The Contra Costa Clean Water Program conducted a clean water funding initiative in 2012 to fund the growing stormwater quality needs and mandates, specifically TMDLs for PCBs and mercury and pesticides, and also to fund other priority pollutants such as trash. This countywide funding initiative failed to reach the 50% majority. We don't have the ability to increase annual fees through emergency regulations like the State Water Board. Municipal stormwater programs are in crisis. There is a huge and growing funding gap. The State Water Board and all stakeholders must acknowledge the situation and must help develop and support funding sources, whatever they might be, grants, bonds, other stormwater initiatives, to help fund the trash control requirements. The State Water Board and all stormwater stakeholders must also be partners with local agencies and support other activities most effectively and efficiently conducted at the state level, such as working with Cal Recycle to address problematic sources of litter through extended producer responsibility and, where necessary, product bans. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Great. Next, Renta Perkins, MPDS Program Manager, City of Walnut Creek, and the Contra Costa Clean Water Program.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. Renta Perkins, Clean Water Program with City of Walnut Creek. We support the goal of this policy, and I wish to commend staff on reaching out to stakeholders in this process. While the draft amendment is more clearly written, the regulatory provisions fail to acknowledge progress made by municipalities in the Bay Area. Under the municipal regional permit, all 76 municipalities, Walnut Creek included, have assessed the extent and magnitude of our trash issue and implemented enhanced control measure to reduce those impact in our local waterways. The City of Walnut Creek is in support of comments provided by BASMA, and the draft policy should include an alternative to allow for compliance through continued implementations of trash-specific provisions in the MRP. I want to share with you the benefits of the Bay Area trash frameworks. In the past 5 years, we have gained more knowledge about our trash problem by performing trash assessment, identifying where the problem areas are, implementing those control measures, and making adjustment in our community-specific trash reduction plan. What else have we learned in the past 5 years and benefits of those framework? In light of time, I'd like to share 3 examples. One, we learned that land use designation alone is not enough. We have spent tremendous resources in the field verification and found that other factors are needed. I want to give you an example. Rossmore, a retirement community in Walnut Creek with over 8,000 residents, will be considered high trash generation area under the draft policy because it is a high residential. But that is not the case with Rossmore. When you take into account the level of maintenance activities performed, the income level, the awareness of Rossmore residents, it is actually one of the cleanest places in our city.
I've heard it's a tidy little place.
Yes,
Actually. That's interesting.
that's right.
That's one of the things I have heard about.
Oh, Rossmore, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Number 2, the process outlined in the framework resulted in 2 important tools, and those are maps of the trash generation as well as trash management areas, which help cities such as Walnut Creek align our efforts and direct our resources in a more meaningful way while allowing some flexibility to make adjustments if certain BMPs are not useful. Give you an example, Walnut Creek downtown. It is a robust downtown with heavy pedestrian traffic. We host a lot of special events each month, each year. And our downtown was initially designated as high trash generation. The tools that I mentioned earlier awoke us. I mean, we found where the trash problem is and helped us understand that aside from street sweeping, we learned that more frequent online trash pickup, more stringent special event permitting process, improved trash bin management, partnership with our business improvement district, those help to address trash issue in our downtown. Talking about monitoring, online visual trash assessment, we continually performing that and adjust maps of those trash management areas. And number 3, we have been conducting trash hotspot assessment and cleanup in the past 5 years. We learn where the sources of those trash come from and what type of most commonly found litter in those areas. We adopted ordinance to prohibit plastic bags, polystyrene, footwear, and smoking. And we start seeing the benefits of those policy. In conclusion, I just want to share with you that Walnut Creek is just one example of the 76 municipalities in the Bay Area that have made positive progress toward reducing trash in our waterways. We are charging full steam ahead and don't want to take a step back. We don't want to spend any more resources on assessment to answer questions we already know. So let us focus in putting those resources in making a difference so that in the next 5 years, we could tell our residents that our city is cleaner. So in conclusion, I ask that the State Water Board consider either including track 3 or revisit the language on track 2 that is as recommended by BASMA. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much and for all your good work. Jonathan, do you want to talk a little bit about the RB2 thing and how you want to handle it, since we have repeat?
Well, I'm going to have to
about it.
look at what their concerns are in writing. We met with folks repeatedly and tried to craft the language so that it was in line with, so that they could use their program as an alternative. So I'll look at their language and see what concerns that they have about it, and make sure that we address it, because it was not meant to undermine their program in any way.
Or duplicate effort or slow it down or anything. Okay. Thank you. Next, Tim Shestak from the American Chemistry Council. There you are.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tim Shestak with the American Chemistry Council. I first want to say that, as I said at last month's workshop, that we certainly appreciate the board's outreach to a number of stakeholders. I was part of the public advisory group, and I know there were a number of stakeholder meetings throughout the state, so we certainly appreciate that. And we also just want to applaud the board for its efforts to try to establish this statewide policy. We think it's important that this policy move forward in a kind of a consistent, uniform manner throughout the state. We have submitted some very extensive comments. Given the interest of time, I won't go through all of those, but we do support a number of the recommendations and proposals that are contained in the report, track 1 certainly, and we also recognize that there are going to be instances where there's going to be some flexibility needed for certain folks to comply through track 2 mechanisms. Having said that, though, I do want to highlight that we do have some strong concerns over the proposed language that is contained in the report that would incentivize the adoption of local ordinances. We've heard a little bit of discussion about that today. We believe that the data shows that the notion of banning single-use products, one product, in particular, say polystyrene cups, for example, does not result in a reduction in overall litter and trash. And I wanted to just highlight that contained in our report is an assessment done by Stephen Stein with the Environmental Resources Planning Group, who we would argue is probably one of the more premier experts in the terms of litter characterization, to really take a close look at the data that he's collected and analyzed on this particular point. And I think it's going to suggest that there is no evidence, really valid evidence, suggesting that specific product bans result in overall trash reduction and litter. In fact, the data supports just the opposite of what you would see in terms of a substitution effect. Certain products being substituted by consumers, those products ending up as part of the trash and litter stream. But at the same time, I think you'll take a look at his analysis. You'll see some of the other elements suggested under track 2 increased street sweeping, litter education campaigns, others that have had a demonstrated effect. And so I think the bottom line for us is that regardless of what option folks look to implement, whether it's track 1 or some combination of structural controls or those that are outlined in track 2, you have to have some sort of demonstrated impact that it's reducing overall trash and not be what I might characterize as an exercise in wishful thinking, that if you ban polystyrene cups, for example, in a certain jurisdiction, you're magically going to see a reduction in overall trash loads. Maybe you'll see a reduction in polystyrene cups, but that certainly doesn't meet the overall objective of trying to reduce overall trash that might be finding its way into the waterways. So we're certainly interested in continuing to be a partner with the Water Board. We've done a lot of work with other state agencies, Caltrans, Parks, and others to try to enhance some of these, characterize them as track 2 elements. And so we certainly want to continue with that, but we do caution the board of incentivizing some of these local bans, which frankly we don't believe result in an overall trash reduction. So appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just so you know, I'm going to go to 12:30 and then we'll take a break and we'll caucus on how many cards, because you may want to put up a thing telling the drinking water discharge people that we won't get to them at 1, so that if they look online or whatever, they'll know they can take a longer lunch or whatnot. I just didn't know how long it was going to take. Next, Lori Hansen-Sheets, Houston Magnani and Associates.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board. I'm Lori Hansen, Houston Magnani Associates, and today I'm here representing the Association of Post-Consumer Plastic Recyclers, the Biodegradable Products Institute, Western Plastics Association, NatureWorks LLC, and the Pactiv Corporation. Pretty divergent group of folks that are opposed to Track 2. And for the recyclers, for example, the reason that their opposition has arisen is because of the potential loss of material. In banning products, substitutes may be less recyclable. The plastic recyclers, especially in the state of California, are already having problems with supplies. The supplies for plastic for recycling are going down. And a lot of substitute materials are not being as readily recyclable. So they would like to see that changed, of course. For the compostable products folks, and they're represented by the Biodegradable Products Institute. By banning their products, they believe that there will be less organic material, food waste, being diverted from landfills, which is definitely not the goal of the state and Cal Recycle and their 75% diversion requirement for 2020. So if compostable products are used, more food waste goes into a compost program, less goes into a landfill. Pactiv Corporation has manufactures products using all materials, plastic, aluminum, paper, and we have quite a few plants in California employing thousands of people. And by banning products, those plants will have a shortage of manufacturing needs, and plant closures have already occurred in Southern California over the last 5 years, and banning more products would not be economically a feasible alternative for them. So they would definitely are opposed to product bans. Finally, the Western Plastics Association represents many plastic manufacturers throughout the state. Together with the Society of the Plastics Industry, the Plastics Industry Association, we've been working for years on resin pellet containment, and I can safely say that a majority of the members of WPA and the western part of SPI have all put into operation resin pellet containment measures through a program called Operation Clean Sweep, which actually Jonathan helped us revamp back in the 2000s. And frankly, if there are plastic manufacturers that are still releasing resin pellets through their manufacturing processes, they ought to be heavily scolded. It's a politically nice way of saying something you can think. But
Public shaming, put
yes.
public shaming into practice.
Resin pellets have no place in the waterways. And
there's the new quote of the day.
California manufacturers that we represent are definitely doing their part to change that and to restrict that. And if you know of anyone that is, please give me their name. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to do one more. And the lucky winner is Jeff Brasseau from Casqua.
He's going to stay all day.
Yeah, maybe I should put him in the back because he'll stay all day anyway. No. Thank you all very much for your thoughts.
I knew that was going to happen. Good afternoon, Chair Marcus and board members. My name is Jeff Brasseau. I'm the Executive Director for the California Stormwater Quality Association. I think many of the comments I would have made made this morning and early this afternoon already, so maybe I'll just kind of touch on a few key things. CASCA definitely supports having the two-track approach. We think it's important to have the flexibility, but also from a practitioner's point of view, Track 2 gives you the full toolbox of things that you could be doing to address the problem, not just one really big tool, but you've got all the other tools possible to use as well. And recognize that Track 1, again, deals with just one waste stream, literally the storm drain system. It doesn't stop plastic bags or other trash being wind blown into the receiving waters, illegally dumped into the receiving waters, or used by campers in the creeks and in the rivers. So it's very enticing, but it's also it comes up a little short in terms of really solving the problem. You want to have those other tools in your toolbox. We support the approach to narrative water quality objectives and the ability to prioritize and focus on high trash generation areas. Really appreciate that approach as well. And we definitely support the idea of regulatory source controls, and actually think that the time extension might be longer. It could be argued it could be longer. I mean, you've heard the time extension seems to be tied to this idea of how effective is the BMP. I think you've heard some evidence today that says that true source control is quite effective, frankly. And again, I tie it back to the fact that it addresses the problem with the source, and as a result, it keeps the trash not just from going through the storm drain system, but also getting there through the other mechanisms as well. So I think the time extension is an appropriate thing for, certainly for the regulatory source controls. Couple things you're going to hear from us in our comments in terms of concerns and suggestions. In terms of the using land use and the idea of having alternative land uses for determining your areas to focus on. The Bay Area research on this, and you'll get this in the BASMA letter as well, shows that it may not actually be land use in some cases that determines where trash is coming from. It certainly could be, but there are other sort of societal factors that could be determining where trash is coming from. So the idea of having an alternative approach option is good in that regard to show that maybe some other kind of factor would be important.
Kind of like what Ms. Perkins was saying.
Median household income.
Really? Interesting.
Just to sort of suggest one possibility. I think it's important also that your alternative approach may want to recognize the donut holes that Renta Perkins was describing in the case of Rossmore. And maybe there are large areas of high trash generation areas that are not.
It's not good to mention donut holes when we're late for lunch.
Yeah.
That was unkind of you, Jeff.
Sorry. You're also aware that a number of communities are now hot and heavy on their watershed planning efforts, and now we have the trash amendments coming through potentially. You heard at the workshop a couple weeks ago that some people were concerned that suddenly trash is being sort of self-determined to be the most important thing they should be working on. So the trash amendments should allow, and the permit requirements should allow the trash as a pollutant of concern to be prioritized along with the other pollutants of concern that they're already working on. We really like to see the state board partner with us in terms of getting real sustainable long-term funding for this effort. This is a very high-cost effort, especially full trash capture is quite expensive. If you think about it, it's a treatment device, right? That's like a wastewater treatment plant. Well, the wastewater treatment plants were built in the 60s and 70s primarily with a lot of support, financial support. So I think an argument could be made that maybe now that we're really talking about real treatment in the stormwater world, shouldn't also enjoy a similar kind of grant or loan program at the federal level, really, but at the state level to fund it.
Sam? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'll talk to you afterwards. Okay.
Yeah. No, grants are always good.
Yeah.
Money helps. There's
Money
no
definitely
question.
helps. We support.
If I could write the checks, it'd be like there.
We support the comments of BASMA on the full capture certification issue. Obviously, a lot of devices were approved in the Bay Area, and those should be treated similarly to the LA approved devices. And finally, you'll see in our comments that there's no recognition for the possibility that there are parts of our state where trash and litter are not much of a problem. And shouldn't there be some kind of exception process for those if they can demonstrate that they either don't have the high trash generation areas that we're most concerned about, or they can demonstrate that they really have no trash that's violating their discharge prohibition. It just seems like a little odd not to have some potential exception process, because there are places, and I can think of a couple where when I look at it and I say, you know, it's hard for me to say they really have much of a litter problem here, and yet they may have a huge sort of blunt device, which we love consistency across the state, but there is some variability across the state, and some kind of exception process with conditions that need to be met. Seems like it, just from a policy point of view, might make some sense. I don't think it would be a wide open door, but it seems like having nothing at all in that regard is maybe a little short-sighted. So, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Reconvening, sorry, I know we'll go past one if we finish. We only have 6 cards, but I'm sure we'll have more questions and conversations. So my apologies to those of you who would rather just power through, because I'm afraid then we might go to 1:15, 1:30, and that's just not fair to people's blood sugar. So is it okay if we come back at 1:15? Okay, we'll be back at 1:15. And then maybe tell post that we'll get to the drinking water program at 2 o'clock. Yeah. Right, you could do that, but they just need to know that we're continuing an item. It may not take that long, so just